Hey, this is Lamar Tyler from Traffic Sales and Profit.
And I'm Freddie Taylor with Urban Intellectuals.
And you are locked into another episode of Black Business Icons. Man, we got two good ones today.
This is probably the strongest one. They all been amazing.
They all been amazing.
Yeah.
But I say my favorite for this episode. Because whenever somebody asks me, you know, who is your business icon? Or even they ask me, what's my favorite book? My favorite book, Succeeding Against the Odds. I feel like I'm preaching when I say Succeeding Against the Odds.
Yeah.
That's the book about John H. Johnson. I'm talking about Johnson Publishing. I'm talking about if you've ever read or seen Ebony Magazine, Jet Magazine. Some of y'all may go back to the old Negro Digest. I got some heat for you. If you from Chicago, if you from Arkansas, oh my.
Are you fired up today?
I'm ready to go. Let's go. Tell me who you got.
Yeah, I mean, you went into the archives and got John H. Johnson, so I had to come with a Titan. In fact, the Black Titan. Yeah, my man A.G. Gaston, right? So there's a book for you, by the way, Black Titan. Check that out. It's the A.G. Gaston story. Great read, very inspirational, but you get deeper insight into the man, the myth, and the legend.
I read that book and made me take a trip to Alabama. Like literally, I was like, I need to lay eyes on the things I heard about in this book.
Yeah.
And so much hidden history again, right? Like he was a part of, we all know the stories about what happened and the civil rights injustice and the struggles and some of the riots and the fighting and the things that happened in Birmingham, Alabama. What many of us don't know is his role in the civil rights movement in Birmingham, Alabama. Yeah. Oh, this is good. I think we should start with the Black Titan.
We got to start with the Black Titan. It's historically, he laid some foundations for John H. Johnson, but the man's story is really spectacular, unbelievable. When you again think about humble beginnings, right? None of these people had silver spoons in their mouth, but A.G. Gaston was born in 1892. That late era again of great icons that seem to come out of that time in Birmingham, Alabama. They didn't have a whole lot of money, but he had a whole lot of heart and a whole lot of spirit. In fact, his story really begins in the coal mining fields, right? So he's a coal miner, hard, back-breaking, deplorable work, but it was hard work, it was honest work, and he showed up every day, right? And with a spirit of excellence. But having a nimble mind like AG does, he started to notice some opportunities, right? So he would come every day to his coal mining job with a beautiful lunch prepared by his wife, who was a marvelous cook. And his food was so good that all the other coal miners would get really interested. So being an enterprising young man that he was, he started selling them lunches, right? So on lunch break, he'd have all of his lunches there and he would sell, and that's how he started to make an additional revenue. So he's still working hard and selling lunches on the side, which is great. But then he noticed something else, which is GoFundMe now, right? But coal miners die, people die, right? And what's typical in I ain't gonna say typical, what was in our community, people didn't have enough money to bury their dead. So they would find that the wives and the widowers would come down to the church, they would come down to the coal mines, and they would ask for donations in order to bury their husbands. And so AG first, he said, I can loan people money. So he started loaning folks money, right? So he was lending money at a 25% interest rate, by the way. Cutthroat out here, right? It's steep, right? But so he started along with that. But then after he started seeing the widowers continue to come by, an idea popped in his head, and he started a burial insurance company that he called the Booker T. Washington Burial Insurance Company. So for a couple of pennies a week, these coal miners and their wives and there's people of the church and the area and the community could have burial insurance. So if they passed, their funerals would be taken care of, right? No GoFundMe accounts anymore, right? So that business started to take off and really continued to build. He left the coal mining fields one day, and I'm pretty sure that he was really excited about that. But his insurance company started to grow there in Birmingham, and he's starting to bud and all of that. But he started to expand, and he opened up a funeral home. right? So if you're gonna bury them, you may as well bury them inside of his business, right? So again, we see another integration, right, into the business, right? So instead of passing all that money to another company, he decided to open a funeral home, and a very successful one at that. And he continued to build and grow, but he was able to start circulating his money throughout his companies rather than just having to use outside businesses, right? So from there, he expanded into the hotels, the business districts. He built up Birmingham. He basically built up Birmingham. We were talking about building Atlanta, right?
Yep.
So A.G. Gaston pretty much built up Birmingham. But the beauty of this man's presence, I would say, was really his philanthropy and his engagement in the activism at the time, right? We talked about every time, there's a march, or every time there's a meeting, or there is a civil rights congregation or something, they need to come together. They would meet at A.G. Gaston's buildings. They would commune at his restaurants and just be entertained by him in Birmingham. Anybody who
when
came
Dr. King or anybody came, they stayed at the motel, right?
Excellent.
Like that was the place to be.
That was the place to be with the man of the town. But he wasn't like on the front lines like a lot of the icons that we talked about. They're normally in the background, funding and payrolling everything. But he had a very successful business. But when the students at Miles College or Tuskegee, when they would get expelled from school or kicked out because they were protesting, right? Because the activism started with with the young adults, right? So as this is against school policy, they get kicked out. A.G. Gaston would fund their bills to make sure that they can, one, get back into school, but two, continue the fight that we know needs to be fought. So I really respect and love and honor him for that. But he built a marvelous organization that totaled, upon his death, $130 million. He died in 1996, so he died at 104 years old. But I don't think a lot of people catch that when he transitioned, he gave his business to his employees.
Wow.
So I thought that was remarkable, right? Because he could have, passed it down to his family, kept it all, but he said that some of these people have worked their whole lives with him. He rarely lost an employee. Like that is like a mind-boggling feat, that somebody would literally work for you for decades and be more than satisfied, more than happy. But he always talked about it not really being about the money. It was just about creating opportunity for people and pouring back into the community that has given him so much. So I thought that was like the perfect exit. It would be to turn over the company to the employees. That's something that I just marvel at. That's a legacy that we hadn't seen just yet in the discussions that we've been having. But what a powerful and inspirational one.
Yeah, and so many things you said just kind of sparked thoughts, right? But like that part, him giving back. I know he gave a lot to like the Boys and Girls Clubs, in Birmingham and in the surrounding areas. A lot of things he did for the youth. I know a lot of times they said not everyone was a fan.
Yes.
Because a lot of people thought he shouldn't be doing some of the business he was doing. He shouldn't be working with some of the other retailers and some of the Jewish businesses, organizations that were in the city. Yeah. But still, I just want to paint the picture that for these folks, everything wasn't always easy. It wasn't always cut and dry. It wasn't always just everybody's a fan or everybody's a friend, but they still pushed through and did what they thought was right and what they felt like their role should be.
Yeah, it was, they thought he was too conservative, at times, and like you say, doing business with.
Should be more militant.
He should be, but he was really, minding his business, literally, because he understood the economic support that the movement needed. So, a lot of times we out boisterous and talking loud and passionate about things, but you're not bankrolling the revolution, right? Like the person that's bankrolling the revolution is thinking a little bit differently than
it's
you.
all up in them Facebook comments. Well, you should have done is, man, you ain't doing nothing out this month, right? You know what I'm saying? You ain't in the streets or funding the streets at either point. So I love it. Recently, a few years back, I took a trip to Birmingham, and when I went to Birmingham, one of the things we did, we went to the Civil Rights Museum, which I say is the number 2 best black museum in the country. Only behind the Blacksonian. And that's kind of in the whole let's take this off the table. That's like in its own world. So you take the Smithsonian African American Museum of History off. I say it's the number one in the country. It's not because it's the newest, it's been there for a while, but just the depth that it goes. And Birmingham itself has so much civil rights history. Yeah. Like it looks like the cradle of so much that happened in civil rights. It's just so much in there. And what I didn't realize is that literally, like on the block where the museum sits, it's like a skinny little street between it. And on the other side of that street is 16th Street Baptist Church, where they did the bombing.
Wow.
And the 4 little girls died. Wow. I had no idea the proximity of that. Yeah. Right across the street from both of those is a park. In that park is where we've seen that black and white footage of Bull Connor sicking the dogs on the young people, like the young adults that were marching and walking, right? In the file. Like we can see it. Like I encourage everybody watching this, take a trip to Birmingham, right? But then what I also saw, because I had read the book, I said, I need to find out where that A.G. Gaston Motor Lodge, like where is that at? Yeah. And it literally was only 2 blocks away from there. Right off of the park, like 2-3 blocks around from the actual 16th Street Baptist Church. And the sad part about it is that it was in disrepair. It was boarded up. It was gated up. There were weeds, there were vines. And over the years, they've been talking about reinvesting into it. They've been talking about making it a national landmark and all those type of things. Yeah. So hopefully that's in progress and it's on the way. Yeah. But even seeing it in that state that it was in still meant something to me. Yeah. And it was still important because I said what he had done, because of all the people, like you said, I can only imagine, those old Buicks and Chevys and Cadillacs riding up, and a lot of the people that we look at today as the forefathers of the movement, having to stay there, because one, there's nowhere else for them to stay. No. But 2, then having somewhere where it's a black-owned place where you could feel safe, where you could talk strategy, you can make the plans for what needs to happen next. Yeah. And just so much history.
While circulating that dollar in the community. Right?
Exactly.
All staying together.
So, that was good. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. Come on, let's get down.
I want to tell you about somebody.
Yeah.
Now, this somebody right here, right? My favorite entrepreneur, John H. Johnson. Again, Johnson Publications, Ebony Magazine, Jet Magazine, Fashion Fair Cosmetics.
Ooh, people forget about that.
Let me tighten up my jacket for this one, right? Yeah. Now, John H. Johnson, you say most of the people we talking about wasn't born with a silver spoon. I'm talking about out of the poverty of poverty. Arkansas City, Arkansas, right? Living in a levee camp area on the banks of the Mississippi River. Wow. His community was so poor, they didn't have a high school. And him and his mother, right? His mother wanted to move them to Chicago, but she hadn't saved up all the money yet. So she said when he got to 8th grade, I don't have the money, I need one more year. But he had no high school to go to. So she just told him he had to go back to 8th grade again. So he actually graduated 8th grade twice.
Wow.
Because they didn't have a high school.
Wow.
Now, a year later, they moved to Chicago. When they get to Chicago, and this is one of the things inspiring, like again, you look at the grit and how like these icons, how do they press, like success leaves clues. He gets to Chicago, everybody's making fun of him, right? They say he wearing mammy clothes because his mama making all his clothes. He had a deep Southern accent. Man, what's up with the people in Chicago? You know what I'm saying?
They brutal, man.
What's up with y'all, man? But he said they made fun of him. So he said what this did forced them to work on themselves more. So he said while they were, playing sports or going out and dating and having fun and going to the movies, he said I was reading books. I was reading Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah. I was reading Napoleon Hill, right? Think and Grow Rich. I mean, imagine like a young man getting a hold of that and saying, I want to do that. He said he was in the mirror practicing public speaking. Wow. And this eventually led to him becoming class president. Also, a fun fact about him during those high school years, you'll never guess who he went to high school with. Harold Washington, right? Chicago's beloved mayor, Nat King Cole.
Wow.
And Red Fox, all there at the same time. Someone graduating with him in the same exact class.
Wow.
So when we talk about how talented we are as a people, sometimes it's amazing, right? The people that cross paths at a certain time. This is one of the things I pride ourselves on with Travis Sells a Profit. I say all the time, like 10, 20, 50 years from now, people won't believe the companies and the businesses that were in the room at the same time and that they all were starting and growing together. Here's another example of it right here. And then class president and him doing, a speech during graduation led to him getting an actual job at Supreme Insurance Company. And somebody helping him, somebody said, hey, I see something special, this young man, and pouring into him from Supreme Insurance Company, right? He got a hold of leading a internal newsletter, and then like you starting to see the.
Here we go. Yeah,
you starting to see the lines, right? Like you put yourself in the right position, you do the right thing, and the right thing eventually happens.
Yes.
And when you talk about his story, his very first magazine, Negro Digest, he said, "Hey, like the white community has Reader's Digest, and we need a version of this for us." He saw the opportunity, saw a need, filled it. Said, "I'm gonna create Negro Digest." Negro Digest, he started with $500. And the $500, he couldn't get it from anybody. So he had to put up his mama's furniture as collateral. Now, you told me before about these black mamas.
Yeah,
like these black mamas have come
I'm
through.
telling you.
These black mamas have come through consistently for these icons.
Come through.
Put up his mama's furniture as collateral, got the $500, started the Negro Digest.
Wow.
Now with the Negro Digest, the insurance company he's working for, he got the approval from the CEO to say, hey, you know what, I can use your list. He had 20,000 people on the list to try to get them subscribed to the Negro Digest. When he did it, he said, I'm gonna send a letter out to these 20,000 people. Now, this is what I want everybody that's watching to really understand and get this. The same things we talk about in business today. The fundamentals of business don't change. Freddie, you heard me say it a million times. It don't matter if you're product-based, you service-based, you e-commerce, the fundamentals don't change.
Right.
You wanna know what John H. Johnson did?
What did he do?
He said, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I got 20,000 letters I'm gonna send out. Now, the price is $3 for a year-long subscription. When he sent the letter out, he sent it out with scarcity. If you join now, it's normally $3, but I give it to you for $2. He's out of scarcity, only got so many issues anyway that you can get. Yeah. He got 3,000 people out of that 20,000 to actually sign up and send them $2. 15% conversion rate.
15%.
Right? And it was amazing, like they didn't know him. So he jumps on and gets all those 1,000 people.
The cold trap.
He had 2,000 issues left because he did an initial print of 5,000 issues. Was able to use that money to get the 5,000 issues done. He said, hey, I need to get this on newsstands. There was no demand for his publication on newsstands. Nobody knew about it.
Right.
And of course, the distributors didn't want to put it on newsstands. They never heard of him, right? He was unproven. So you know what he did? He went out and got his friends to go to newsstands, 20, 30 people, and for them to request it.
I love it.
Then next thing you know, people at the newsstands are saying, hey, everybody keep asking for the Negro Digest. Does anybody have it? Create his own demand.
Yes.
Then he said once the distributors got a hold of it, got on newsstands, he needed people to buy it. So he went back to those 20, 30 friends, gave them money. They went out and bought it. And now the people at the newsstands are so excited because everybody's buying through this new publication that when they see a black person coming down the block, they say, hey, have you heard about this new magazine?
Yeah.
So really, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy now.
Yeah.
So he's moving that. So he goes from Negro Digest, they later call it Black World, right? You know, names change as time goes on, right? Changes that. He goes on from that to launch, what we know today as Ebony Magazine, Jet Magazine. He launched a Tan Magazine. But really being able to grow something that was an iconic brand. At one point, Ebony Magazine, 2.5 million in circulation each month. They say Ebony Magazine reached 40% of all black homes. It's a lot of black homes, 40% of all black homes. And we think about what Ebony Magazine provided. He said he wanted like a large scale magazine, like your Time or Your Life magazine. And that black people deserve to see themselves in a positive image and a positive light. And again, just like AJ Gaston, not everybody liked that.
Right.
They thought like it should be about this thing and be about that thing. He said we deserve to see positive stories. But they still had impactful stories through his publications too that helped with the civil rights movement. Right? I was just recently watching the Till movie about Emmett Till. That Emmett Till image. And Image is Emmett Till.
He ran
in Johnson's publications.
Yeah.
Helped shift the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
I mean, so many iconic moments. And when you look at what he built and what he did, we're just talking about just so far the publications. We didn't talk about that his amazing wife had a fashion fair and they were doing the fashion shows all around the world. Not just all around the United States, the world. Right. But as they were doing them, the models couldn't find makeup. The models couldn't find makeup to fit their skin tone. So what did they do? They went out and made their own fashion fair cosmetics. They went and got that in the department stores where they forget selling to black consumers. They didn't even want black consumers in some of those stores. Right. But he was able to work his way in and get them in. Advertisers didn't want to publish and advertise to black folks. He was able to bend their ear and get them into those magazines. Yeah. What's wild is that at one time, right, 1987, let's go back to 87. Johnson Publications was on 170 million in sales back then. Can you imagine? 170 million in sales in the late 80s.
trying to get to 10. Doing 170 million in the 80s. I mean, that's what, 35 years ago?
Exactly.
87.
He shifted and changed so much. And when you talk about accolades, this dude got accolades.
All of them.
I'm talking about Black Enterprise Entrepreneur of the Year. Got it. I'm talking about Forbes 400. The 400 richest people in America. He was the first African American to ever make that list.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Presidential Medal of Freedom from Bill Clinton.
Wow.
And Bill Clinton was just the fourth president he had been to the White House to visit. He had been to the White House with Nixon. He went with Johnson. He went with Kennedy, and then again with Bill Clinton.
Wow.
I mean, and friends, think about the timing of all of this.
Yeah.
If I went to the White House once now, it'd be a big deal. 4 different administrations, working with them, ambassador to many countries, right? Work with many African nations around entrepreneurship. I mean, just what he did consistently, he broke barriers. I mean, you from Chicago. You know one of my favorite things to do whenever I'm near downtown Chicago?
Gotta be. I know what it is.
I gotta ride past that building.
You gotta go see that building.
I gotta go, like, it's still like the first time.
Yeah.
I remember the first time, literally, I was in my own in a rental car, and I was just like driving around, like from block to block, like looking. And then I saw at the top of it, I saw that ebony jet across the top of it, and I said, oh my God, that is it.
Yeah.
Then another time, we released a movie called Still Standing in 2012. We went on a press tour, and my publicist got me an interview with Ebony Magazine. So I go into the lobby. In the lobby, this is 2012. The lobby looked like you walk into the 70s. I feel like I walked in, my jeans just turned to polyester bell bottoms, like Shazam, right? I was like, I went from bald to afro, right? But literally, they had the exact same floors, the exact same desk. It had like this big sectional wraparound couch that was like this orange color. But it was amazing. Like, I didn't want them to come down and get me.
Yeah.
I sat on that sofa and I sat in the lobby and dreamed of the people that had took that same walk.
Yeah.
I said, man, who are the people that sat on this couch? Because this is the original couch.
It's the original.
It literally was the original couch. At least it was in good condition, though. It was. They must have had it in plastic.
Plastic. You know it was.
The condition was too good. But literally, once we did that, then later on, we went up and I was talking to one of the writers and meeting the editors and some of the people. But how much history went through that building? Yeah. And even when he built that building, he was the first and still the only black person to build a building, their own building in downtown Chicago.
Yeah.
Michigan Avenue.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that's something that would be iconic today. If I did that right now, they'd be like, this dude Lamar built a high-rise office building.
800 South Michigan Avenue across from Grant Park. That bean, everybody know the bean in Chicago. It's right there. It's prime real estate.
And something else that reminds me, they said when he built it, because of his relationship with Daley, the mayor, right? And this is like, again, this ain't like recent.
Yeah.
You think about what these people accomplished during that time. They said at the time, and still to this day, he was able to create the only building, because he had it with the mayor, that had its own driveway directly on Michigan Avenue.
Right.
Because most of the driveways are not on the side streets. He's on Michigan Avenue, because when he would come down his limousine, the limousine would turn right into the building and go underneath into the park.
It's funny, you got me fired up by all of this, because first time after college, when we moved back to Chicago, that was the first place I went. Like, we was there, we moved our little apartment, he's coming from Texas. And I was like, I gotta go see the building. Like look, I get goosebumps again. I gotta go see the building. So I remember that drive and coming up on it. I didn't go inside. That's one thing I regret. I should have went inside.
Yeah.
But it was spectacular. But when he purchased that, for the renovation and all that stuff, he couldn't buy. Because you black, you can't buy it in that area in the time, that he bought. So he posed as the janitor. And had his white Jewish lawyer pose as the buyer. So he's there acting like he's going to check out the mechanics of the building, but he's really doing the walkthrough because he's going to purchase the building. That's just, you got to be clever in a way to circumvent some of the madness, let's call it, that we face sometimes in this country. So
definitely. And we talk about visionary. This guy was a visionary of visionaries. So, if y'all are going to Chicago, I encourage you, right? The building now is owned by, I believe, the University of Chicago, but it still stands. I want you to go down there, and I want you to see it. That should be the first place you go.
Yeah.
Man, Let me tell you, when you go to Chicago, the pizza ain't even good. Stop going to pizza places. Replace that time with the pizza place. Am I okay to say that, Freddie?
You taking shots. Shot town continues
Why
to
not?
come and get you now.
Pizza ain't good, no way, right? Man, forget them pizza spots. Go and see that building. I mean, this is. I love it so much. What we talk about is still living history.
Yeah.
We talked about Lonzo Herndon, like that Atlanta Life Insurance Company building is still right across the street from us right now, Auburn Avenue.
Yeah.
When we talk about A.G. Gaston, like that motel, regardless of what condition it's still right there. I mean, they've built, again, legacies, enduring, lasting legacies that even once they're gone, it's still pieces of what they built that have been left behind.
Yeah.
That can still inspire us, that can still motivate us and say, hey, if they did that 40, 50 years ago, sometimes some of these people 100 plus years ago, then what can we do now?
That's what I know. We got a lot of work to do. It's a beautiful opportunity. Sometimes I wonder what would they have done with all the tools and the access that we have, right?
We probably couldn't imagine.
I can't imagine, but it also lets you know we playing games. We gotta roll up our sleeves and get to work.
So all of those reasons, right? All those things he did. That's why every time I talk about him, I just get so pumped up and excited. And I literally have like pictures of some black business icons in my office. Like he's in the middle. Like he is like, it's like people that motivate me. Like on that wall, I got Earl Graves Sr., I got Kathy Hughes, I got A.G. Gaston, right? But in the middle of that wall is John H. Johnson. Every time I read a story, every time I watch a video on YouTube of him speaking in his own words, which you can go out on YouTube and hear him in his own words, it gets me ready to go and run through a wall and say, again, if he did it, I can do it too.
Absolutely.
So that's what we want you guys to take away. Hopefully you've enjoyed season 1, right? And if you want season 2, make sure you hit us on social at Lamar Tyler, at Urban Intellectuals, and let us know. Because again, if they did it, you can too. I've enjoyed it. Freddie, you had fun with the series, man?
I did, brother. This has been great, man.
Look, I enjoyed it. Maybe the people want us back. Maybe we come back for season 2 and drop some more gems, share some more names with you to make sure it happens. But only, again, here do you get this conversation on Black Business Icons.
The Convo, your home for conversations on Black entrepreneurship and wealth, available on your favorite platforms.